Hello. Oh my gosh. I am so sorry I'm late. Y'all, oh gosh, you never know. I do have clients and things like that, right? So I was helping one of my clients and with what I thought was going to be a really short conversation. Yeah, it didn't end up being that way. Anyway, so I'm so sorry that I'm late, but welcome. I want to be sure, can y'all hear me okay? We are live right now on YouTube, on Facebook, on Rumble as well. So we're going live on Rumble every time I go live over here on YouTube. Welcome, 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 everyone. I hope everyone is doing great. I hope you're having a wonderful Monday. I hope your weekend was amazing. If you saw my little video that I put up yesterday on Sunday, the 21st, um, child, I was gonna go live, and let me tell you something. I ended up making pinto beans and rice. I baked some chicken and some light coating and whatnot. Made some cornbread. Like it was so good. It was so good. And by the time I did all of that, honey, I was not going live. Listen, I was, ooh, mm-mm, mm-mm. That was not happening yesterday. So I'm glad we're all back here today. Hey, Shakima, how are you, my dear? Hello. Yes, honey, and it was yummy. And my daughter came over and he had that, and she made because her friend that's staying with her doesn't like pinto beans. Now I don't know. Well, that's a real not good thing to say. I was gonna say I'm. He don't like pinto beans. I don't understand how that happens. I can understand not liking navy beans. I can even understand not liking lima beans. I don't understand not liking pinto beans. That don't make no sense to me. I'm gonna be very honest with you. But he didn't like pinto beans. So he wanted lightly candied yams. So she was like, "Oh, I don't know how to make them." I said, "Child, listen, I retched up in my retched up in the cabinet, pulled down some dark brown sugar. I said, use the dark because it turns out better. It's healthier for you anyway." And I said, throw a little cinnamon off in there, and uh, and then she said, "Oh, I'm gonna put some honey in it." I said, "Girl, there you go." Them yams was good. She brought me some. They were some good yams. I'm glad you're doing well, sweetheart. Girl, I don't know how it happened. I'm like, I'm not sure what we dealing with here. I don't know who this is. I do not understand that concept at all. Let me just make sure that I've got my live over here. Yeah, it is a mess. Trying to figure out Rumble can be a bit of a mess. It doesn't make sense sometimes. Okay. All right, here we go. So, hello over on Rumble. I'm gonna bring you over here so I can monitor this. All right. One other thing I want to get out, a couple things I want to get out of the way before, as we're letting people coming on in the room, because I know I just kind of popped up. Um, I want to be sure that you all know now, those of you that are my members, and then those of you who are not yet members, I am actually about to start a 60-day manifestation challenge for the members. For the members. So I'm going to post that link right here. Hey, Coach Leslie. So for all the members, we're going to start this. Now, I might give y'all a few days. I'm not big on like it needing to start on like the first or anything like that. I feel like starting it on odd days actually probably works a little bit better. Rumble, I posted it over there. It is on my YouTube. You have to join the membership over on YouTube. But we're gonna start this week. Okay, it says it posted it. We're gonna start this week with that, and probably Thursday or Friday. We're gonna do a 60-day manifestation challenge. Shout out to my very, very dear friend Armand Wiggins, who did one earlier at the beginning of the year. He started his like, we started January 2nd and then ended 60 days later. And when I tell you, his was very much a detox. When I tell you that there was a lot of life changing things that happened for me, things that were on my bingo card and things that were not on my bingo card changed. So, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I gave up coffee, and I think some of y'all might remember I told y'all I was doing it. I gave up coffee, and I gave up watching murder suspects interrogation videos because I got real bad with it. And there were so many life changing things that happened in those 60 days. Well, I've kind of fallen off the wagon. Like, I'm back to watching some of those things, and you know, not as much high vibe, stuff, not as much Abraham Hicks, and a little more law and crime. So and following different, legal things that are happening in cases and stuff. So I want to get back on the bandwagon. I want to get back on, and my coach said, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you were doing, you need to get back to doing that. Um, and because it just helped all the way around. So if you all want, join the membership. We're going to be doing it for 60 days. I'm going to probably run mine a little bit different. Um, we'll do we'll have some meditations in there. We'll have some other teachings in there, all that kind of good stuff. So you can go and join. You're open to it at this time. You're open to it. Listen, we're gonna give up something so we can manifest all the things that we want. And one other thing, and then we'll that'll be the last kind of housekeeping thing I have to do here. Um, I am doing Thursday night. We're doing another soulful specialization for everybody. It's free. So you can register at that link that I just dropped in the chat. Again, it is completely free. 2 hours, and we'll clarify, redefine whatever we need to do with your niche so that you can go on and move forward in your business, in whatever business you're doing. All right. Are we ready to go? So, last we left off, for those of you who are not aware, we did a part one a while ago, not that long ago. We did a part one, and we got through about the first 30 minutes of this hour and 45-minute video. I don't think we're not gonna need to do, I don't know how much more we're gonna do today, but we're gonna do some more today. I'm gonna actually put this down here in the chat as well for part one, and we'll have the link in the description as well for part one. But I want you to be sure that you go see this. So if you don't recall, Terrence Howard, um, this is the interview he did on the Straight Talk podcast. I do have the entire interview and the link down below. So and it's also on Rumble as well. I'll get the link Rumble and I'll put it over there for you. Um, and anywho's Neimer. So we got through a good chunk of what he was talking about, like when he was chatting about metaphysics and some of the other things like manifestation, when he was talking about the law of attraction from a physics point of view. So it's very interesting. Everybody was so concerned about his wig, and not enough people were just flat out concerned about what he was saying. So that's why I went ahead and I wanted to break this down. Good afternoon, Tasha. How are you? Oh, you went down the Terrence Howard rabbit hole? Child, let me tell you something. There's a lot here, and we might go down that all together, okay? But for those of you who don't know, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be watching this. This is all under fair use. Hey, Babita, how are you? Hello. This is all fair use, okay? Because we're doing commentary, teaching, all that kind of great stuff. So the reason why he is wearing a wig is because he is on set. He is at this time he recorded this, he was making a new movie about, oh my God, I swear I got sleep. Stuff it's every time I start talking. Um, the movie's Fight Night, and it's kind of like it sounds to me like it's an Ocean's 11, but set during a Muhammad Ali boxing match. One of the very famous ones. That's what it sounds like to me. So I'm really here for it. It sounds like fun. So we are going to, let me actually, yeah, I can do that. We're going to pick this up. I literally stopped it where we left off. We're going to pick it up, and let me make sure that you guys can hear it. I'm going to turn this up. Oh, that's right. Hold on. That's right. I don't think I can play it from here, can I? All right. I'm going to rewind it a little bit, and then let me know, though, if it echoes or give me some hearts if you can hear it. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear it. Put a 2 in the chat if it echoes. 1 in the chat if you can hear it. 2 in the chat if it echoes. Okay, here we go. Okay, let me see what we're saying here. Come on, let me go back to this. Sorry, guys, I had to get back to the chat. No sound. All right, here we go. Then I'm going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. I remember the last time I tried to do it all fancy schmancy through my OBS, and it did not want to work. Jerk. Hey, Juice, how are you? Okay, thanks, the heat detector. Oh, good, I can see your chats over here in StreamYard. I'm so happy. It only takes little things to make me happy. Also, share tab sound. Okay, perfect. Share. Okay. All right. Now I know you guys will be able to hear it. All right, here we go, gang. And did I put the okay, I'm putting the closed captions on as well. Let me do this. Okay, here we go.
Looked forward to a savior coming in and helping us. I miss those days because it was much easier. But I recognize that we have to save ourselves. You have to be your own hero and act. Jesus didn't sit and wait for someone else to come and help. He got out and did what was necessary in order to educate and edify the people that he cared about. And as a result of that work, we have all of these wonderful ideas, but now we've lost that spirit, and it's time for us to get back into the spirit of what's right.
Well, I appreciate, your thought process concerning that. And I think there is a way to reconcile the two. I wouldn't dare tell a person how they need to personally receive truth, you know. But you taking such a strong stance in your convictions, in your revelation towards science, towards questioning the word you use is audit. You're auditing all of these systems. You're auditing the system of religion, you're auditing the system of science and math and the system of education, the system of this government structure. So in that process, you don't need um, to know whether you're right or not, but the world is questioning.
Well, I need to know
Why
that
you're
I'm
right.
right.
You know what
I
I mean?
need to know because the truth does not matter being examined. It's just the lie that doesn't like being examined.
Okay.
Now, can we just, for those of you that don't know, I do need to pause because I don't, not that I think that the woman that has Daphne Wynn, that she would strike the channel, but it's only fair. I loved that quote that the truth does not mind being examined. It's the lies right? That mind that don't want to be examined. And I think if we take that, if we can take that and hold on to that, and even like pass all of our, as everything is beginning to change within our own world, within our own selves, and begin to put everything up against that light, right? Put everything up against that light. We begin to, I think that really then will bolster our ability to be able to explain why we believe what we believe. They call that apologetics in divinity, right? And I never liked the term apologetics because I was like, well, what am I apologizing for? But it's really like if you can't explain why you do what you do. And to me, being loud and wrong is worse to me than being right and quiet. You know, we sometimes, some of us can have a tendency to want to be loud and wrong. We just want to be the loudest. So I would just ask that we begin to examine things, right, from that perspective. And I think that'll make us all just so much better. Here we go.
Not supposed to ask those things, but the truth always welcomes thorough examination, rigor. That's what we're supposed to, that's what our math was supposed to do. So how do you have where the square root of 2, when you cube it, has the same value as the square root of 2 when you multiply it by 2? That's like making x cubed equal to 2x, which is equal to x plus x. That's an unnatural equation. So that means the math is off. How can you multiply by 0, but you can't divide by it without it becoming an infinity when division is the inverse operation of multiplication? That's how you check your multiplication, is you divide it back. So if you can't divide it back, then it's unreal. And in the scriptures, Jesus didn't mind being questioned.
No.
So why would the Bible, or the people that promote the Bible, why would they question or be upset with someone questioning whether these traditions are actually from the Creator? And if they're from the Creator, you'll know. So for me, it was important to find the truth. That's all I care about.
Can we just stop there for just 1 second? Please don't get up, because there's 2 things that he just talked about. So the math, you know how we joke around, we talk about the math ain't mathing. And I had to stop and think about that for a second. Does it logically make sense that 2 times 0 is 0? 2 multiplied by 0, why is it 0? Why is 2 times 0 not 2 when multiplication is just a higher form of addition? I mean, I want you to just, I know that this is not what we've been taught. I get it. But let's just, if we can examine those quote unquote truths that we have been taught and begin to question it. If I'm not multiplying or exponentially adding, let's call it, a number by anything, then I still have the same number. If I'm not, even if you just think about it in just standard math, just think about this. If I have 2 Post-it notes and I multiply it, and over here I'm saying, well, I'm going to multiply these notes, Post-it notes, and I'm not multiplying it by anything. Do I now not have 2 Post-it notes? And the reason why this to me is such, and why this is setting the world like on its edge, is because if you really take it by the logical standard or the standard definitions that we have long since held to be true about certain things in math, and because math is one of the most basic ideas that we go by along with time, but whatever, then if you really just kind of break it down and that's not logical in reality, if that's not, the matrix has said this is how it is, but if that's not how it is, then you can begin to question how we've been taught to assess everything. We've been taught, we can begin to assess that, and then we can begin to assess the traditions. We can begin to assess the belief structures. We can begin to assess everything that we've been taught, so that we can question it and get to the truth of the matter. Because when in the Bible it says, and there are other axioms and other spiritual belief structures that say similar things, that the truth shall set you free, it is honestly, I believe, one of the most correct statements I've ever heard. Because as I became to understand and understand the truth of self, the truth of my higher self, the truth of that the universe is all energy, the truth of all of this, I began to be freer. Does that make sense to y'all? Leave me some hearts. Tell me yes. Do something. Let me know that y'all are with me and I ain't lost you. Let me know that you're here. Let me know you're here. All right, here we go.
I care about the truth and make way for life, because everything, whoever said that, I think it was a narcissist that said, well, God put us here and put all the animals underneath us. Says who? Why? We're the only species that is responsible for other species being extinct. We've caused millions, if not billions, of species to go extinct, from microbes to actual mammals. We are responsible. So you think we are in charge, or God put us here over this earth in this way to abuse it in this life?
There's a you've probably heard it, I'm sure, but there's a scripture in Isaiah, and it says that the heart of man is
Yes.
desperately wicked
And treacherous.
and who can know it?
Who can know it?
And I think those are some of the explicit things that explain our humanity. I like to say a lot of times that we're just very savage in our nature. And so when things happen to me, what I look at is I look at humanity. I don't blame God
No.
for what we choose.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm watching this for like the fifth time, so I'm seeing new things. Can I ask a really quick question? And I don't mean to be I'm not trying to be contrary, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just asking a question. If we are made in the image and likeness of our creator, of God in the Bible, how then is our heart, if our heart is wicked and treacherous, what does that say about that which created us? Because we talked about it first, that God is not imperfect. We see that numerous times, right? That God is not man that he should lie. So if our hearts are I'm not saying that there aren't treacherous people. I'm not saying that there aren't wicked people, or people that are given to operating in their lower vibration and they never ascend, they never come to understand, they never come to live in a Christ consciousness, a love consciousness. They never come to that space. They remain in this lower vibrational angry, whatnot state. I would say that someone though that is wicked tends to have had either something happen to them, usually it's some severe trauma or something, right? There's something that's off more so in their brain than in their heart. That I mean that I got to begin to question, and I'm beginning to wonder who these players are now in this text, is because if we're made in the image of God, if God is love, at what point does love become wicked? But then again, also, at what point is a loving parent, which we talked about in part one, is a loving parent of the mindset that that you can do something so horrific that I'm going to torture you for all of eternity. Anyway, that's I don't, y'all, this is making me think. The number one, yeah, or the fact that we don't start with the number zero, because zero is an energy. It has its own energy. Yeah, you know what? It just, I don't know. Yeah, like love was wrong, right? How is that? I've kind of believed that my heart is the purest place in my physical being. It is. It is. Okay, here we go. Sorry, guys.
To do. And I think that those are some of the imbalances of understanding truth about God's word and who he is and what his plan is for us and why we're here. But again, you auditing the lie.
I'm
so
auditing
to
what's
say.
I'm auditing the indoctrination and the dogma.
Got it.
You know,
Yeah.
you that what that scripture says is the heart of man, who can know it? It's desperate and treacherous. Now, treacherous means to trip one up from behind.
Mm.
Mhm.
That's the heart of man. And you think that we've been given authority or dominion over the earth? That sounds like something that somebody wanted to enslave people,
Mhm.
because they use those same things to
Yeah.
say that slavery was okay,
Yeah.
for all of this time.
Mhm.
You have to audit the political systems. We have to audit for 7 years, 6 years. My family went through a federal criminal investigation for the IRS. 6 years thorough, went through everything for 6 years. At the end of the 6 years, they came up with, well, we keep this going, or you can plead guilty to a misdemeanor of fraud. Now, I knew what they wanted me to do was so that they could say he's a fraud, and therefore all of these other things that I would come out and say, they would be able to say, well, I was like, no, let's go to court. Let's do this in front of a jury of my peers. And then they walked away from it. And then Pennsylvania, somebody that was really had a big appetite, they went and made a civil thing. And so I went and I responded to the person on the phone and told her, no, what you guys are doing is wrong, because anyone, taxes from 2008, 2009, even 2011, by nature would be discharged for any other citizen. So how is it you're going to try and hold me accountable for something you would have discharged? That's discrimination.
We know that the IRS is an illegal entity. We know that.
Yes, it's a private entity. It's not even part of.
That's crazy. Like, I didn't know that
So
he had gone
again,
up against that. That's nuts.
I said this to you the other night and we didn't have it on camera, but I'm gonna say it now. You're stirring up some stuff.
Just the truth.
And right. But in that, and we know all the greats, we talked about that the other night, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and all the people that stood against something or stood for something were attacked in a certain way. And we talked about fear and how that plays out. So do you fear anything with what you're auditing now and how people will respond to all of these truths that you're seeking to prove?
No, I've already proven it.
Okay.
The 97 patents prove it. You don't get a patent unless it's
Okay.
real. And then the inventions and the new industry prove it. The entire AR, VR world that you guys use with with all of that came from one of my first patents, the World of Windows patent in 2009, that when I was accused of domestic violence and was unable to go and get my mail because I couldn't go to the house because she had a restraining order, couldn't reach out in any way. So for $500 something maintenance fee, my World of Windows patent was abandoned, and immediately Hewlett Packard stamped everybody, AT&T, grabbed my patent, didn't just cite it, but built the entire AR/VR world off of it.
So is that what?
Did you all hear that? So if you were not, it's the first part. In the first part of this, he talks about how his and guys, I sped it up a little bit. He talks about how I think it was his first wife. I don't know if it was his second. He's been married a few times. Filed like a bogus domestic violence and yada yada da 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 da. And I remember when all that came out. So back in 2009, because he wasn't able to get his mail, then when the patent came due, because you have to re-up, you have to pay every so often to maintain your patents, otherwise they expire. And so the patent wore out on that particular invention, and that's what virtual reality and altered reality, augmented reality. It's altered. Augmented reality is all based on is that. And he just 97. Do you have any idea what kind of a mind? I don't. How have you? Any of you tried to get a patent? Like it's no easy task. It's no easy task to even get something like trademarked, like your name. Like when I got Lightworker Academy trademarked, like it took a minute, and it was like I had to get an attorney. I mean, I could do it now because I know better, but it's not like super simple, and so and it can get pricey. So here he is getting 97 patents. Isn't that like completely amazing? That's amazing to me. But I want to know what other patents he's got now. I want to know these 97 patents. This is crazy.
What that was about, because I did read where there was a domestic violence dispute, and the first wife was given a restraining order.
Yeah, no, that my first wife, that was the only woman that I've ever had a physical alteration with, interaction with. I had spent, because of trying to be a witness. Oh, but first let me get to, you had asked, and am I afraid? The only thing I'm afraid of is not accomplishing that which I was put on here to do. Because if I don't accomplish it, I got to come back and do it again. It's what we need right now is the world to be saved and to raise the vibration of humanity. And the only way you do that is remove the interfering vibratory things, which is lies, and replace it with truth and everyone becoming one. So part of those lies, my first wife, who I did, and this is what I did with Rolling Stone, who we had broken up and were apart for 6 years. And I did the biblical thing. I went there, took out the trash, still cut the lawn for 6 years. I took care of everything, but I was being humiliated by her. And at one point it got to me, and I went to the door, and she had been really mean, and I kicked open the door and I grabbed her, and then my kids were right there. And when I smacked her, when I said I smacked her, it was like I was like, hey, like that. But for some reason, now my brother came and grabbed her because we were working at the house. And when the police came, I told them what happened. They took us to the station. They did pictures and all of that. And when I was so surprised when she said that, when I read that she said that I'd hit her with a closed fist. Now, mind you, I weighed about 220. I was benching like 340 at the time. If I had punched her in the face, her face there would have been bruises or any of that. But anybody can look up, Lori McComas or whatever name they got for her, and look at those pictures and see that didn't align. But I believe that it was her attorney and her desire not to have me there in order to get the restraining order. They did that. And then she didn't know how it would affect me going into the future. And that's what my second wife used as blackmail, knowing that I'd already had that there. In our industry, there's two terrible, unforgivable sins: domestic violence and child abuse. Those two things, you're done. So I was given the scarlet letter, and I didn't know that scarlet letter was the best thing for me, because I was kicked out of the limelight and forced to be back inside of my own home. And that's when the creator began to to use me again.
Okay.
And I started remembering all of the things that mattered when I was a child. And that's where all of the patents came from. That's where the discoveries came from. It was during that time that I was on my own. And I've
Do you
got,
feel
Isn't that interesting? So I just want to just say to y'all that whenever you feel, right, whenever you feel like you're being shut away, like you're in that hermit cave, like you're in this alone time, like you're in this desert time. And probably for some of us, it feels like we're there a lot more than we used to be. But whenever you feel like you've been set aside and put, like things just aren't working the same way or whatever the case may be, use that time, because that's some of the most productive, amazing, beautiful time that you'll ever have. It's always for a purpose.
that you've been forgiven?
oh, I don't need to be forgiven.
I was going to ask
I didn't
you,
do shit to
do
be
you want to be
forgiven for.
forgiven?
No, no, I forgave me for losing the self-control, but my
Okay.
kids knew the truth.
Okay.
You know, I did a video explaining about my second wife,
Mhm.
who all I wanted from her,
hmm
my second wife, Michelle.
Mhm.
We got engaged. We didn't sleep together until we were engaged. Met her in 2009. Yeah,
Okay.
2008, and we got engaged in 2009. Tried to sleep together and realized we didn't have any chemistry at
What?
all. And
That's crazy.
but when I still brought her home in Philadelphia, and I was like, here, I played for the tape of my mom right before she died. My
Mhm.
mom died from colon cancer in 2008,
hmm
and I had one dictaphone that had my mother the last 2 weeks, and her telling me, I knew you were gonna be all right, and I loved you, and da da da. And she's like, oh, why you got it on a dictaphone? Let me put it in the computer. I can put it in the computer and we keep it. Okay, great. I'm downstairs 2 hours later. I come upstairs, all of my dictaphones. Now, mind you, I'd heard that Louis Armstrong had recorded his life.
Mhm.
So I always had dictaphones recording my life for the last 10 years before meeting her. She had downloaded all those into her computer. And a couple of them was me having phone sex, stuff like that. Because I didn't know if some chick was going to come out
You
and
know
me too
what?
was going to
Okay.
happen.
Listen.
So I came up and I saw that up there and I was like,
I just had to take a break. Do y'all remember Christian Keys? I know this is flashback. Do y'all remember? Move, Gemini. Y'all remember Christian Keys? And he was like, that he had said he kept a dictaphone and he would record everything when other Hollywood people's or other people's may or may not have been forcing him or propositioning him or whatever. Do you remember that? That brought that back to mind. So Terrence Howard was already doing the dictaphone thing, child, to make sure he did not get me too. That is crazy to me. Move, baby. Thank you. That's crazy to me. Anyway, I just had to point that out.
wait, no, 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 that's my personal stuff. And I didn't know
Uh-huh.
much I didn't
Right.
play with the computer that much. So she was like, oh, no problem, I'll delete it. And she hit delete. And I was like, okay, fine. So I go downstairs and find, and then 3 months later, when I tell her, look, I don't think this is gonna work out, she's like, you think I erased that stuff? I kept it and I heard who you are and got it. And that's where the blackmail began. But I didn't care about the blackmail. All I wanted back from her
Mhm.
was my mother's tape.
Wow.
And I begged her and went through all of that stuff for years, just hoping she would give that back to me.
hmm
After destroying my career, all of the stuff that she went out and did, not one time, not one call to the police, not one report from the police, not one report from a neighbor, not one trip to the hospital, none of those things. All she came out and said that I'd hit her and had painted a black eye on, and people ran with it.
Yeah, I read
And
it.
and when she finally gave me back the tapes after I paid her the ransom for it, she had erased everything. So she killed my mother
Wow.
again. And
Wow.
I still had to continue paying someone. And I was looking for the courts to help and all of those things. But the good thing is I forgot that 50% of me is genetically predisposed to become my mommy. So all I had to do was look down at my hand. Oh, there's my mommy right there. And I shouldn't have never been afraid.
Wow.
So being afraid is a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah.
But nothing happens by accident. Because if that hadn't happened, I would have continued making money. I wouldn't have cared about the truth. I wouldn't have cared about where we are. I wouldn't have cared about the IRS. The IRS led me to the idea of, what in the hell are we paying taxes? If my family was forced to come over here, kidnapped,
hmm
brutalized, forced labor,
hmm
raped,
Mhm.
murdered, But under all of that, we built this entire country. Now, if I'm a contractor, I build a home for you.
Right.
You can't pay for the home. What happens? That home comes to me by default.
Exactly. Yeah.
So by default, the entire United States, all of its infrastructure, all of its Capitol buildings, everything that's been, the streets were built by us. They have never paid us for it. Now, the Brattle Group, which is an independent statistics group, they did an evaluation of what Barbados and their relationship with England, with Britain owes Barbados. Said it was $4.5 trillion for the 350,000 slaves that were brought over. It's $4.5 trillion. But for the U.S., they said it was 108 to 131 trillion dollars that was owed to the descendants of slaves, that the reparations should go. Now, they don't have that. They can't even get that in 15 years from the GDP. Our GDP, we get maybe about 10 trillion at the most. Right now, there's $20 trillion in total money available, but we owe $34 trillion. So we're paying $680 billion a year in interest just on that money that will never be paid off because there's never enough money printed in order to pay it off.
So I know you have a very illustrious reparations plan.
Okay, before we get to that, can we just say something real quick? Y'all know they just passed that bill over the weekend to send $60.8 billion to the Ukraine. I still don't know how much they're sending to Israel. I don't know how much they're sending to Israel. And I know they want to send munitions or something, weaponry to Taiwan and the Ukraine as well. And I think Israel. But what I found, like when he just said that, I was like, wait a minute. So we're paying 680 billion with a B dollars in interest. The reason why I'm bringing up all these conflicts, right, up that we're now involving ourselves in all around the world is because when you don't have enough money, typically when the economy is about to go into another reset, what do? We ratchet up the military industrial complex, right? Let's start making stuff. Let's start making munitions. Let's start making weaponry. Let's start making all these things. Now we can dump money over here, make more money. We can sell it over here. And part of that bill was to seize the assets of Russia that are frozen in the central bank to pay for the rebuilding of the Ukraine. The conflict is still going on. So who's really going to get that money? Now we're going to listen to his reparations plan because it's really interesting. Here we go.
Yes.
You mentioned that the other night as well. And that is one of the questions I wanted to ask.
Well, let's do it.
What that plan is. But I think it's important for the people to understand where we are as a nation in terms of the numbers. Because you mentioned, you asked me a question, like how many do I think is here? How many?
What population, what
Yeah,
percentage of the
population.
population do we
And
make
I said
up?
50 million.
Yeah. And it
you said
turns
it's
out
probably more like 100.
it should be. It feels like we make up a third of the country. We fill up 90% of the prisons. We have so much legislation regarding the descendants of slaves, but they say we only make up 12 to 13% of the population. Now, does that make sense to y'all? Does that make sense to anyone? It says that Caucasians make up 75% of the population here. But the point of that, if that's the case, we only contribute 12% to the GDP of the IRS. Now, it's immoral for them to be charging us taxes, I think, for the next 400 years. Because they don't have the money to pay us the reparations, 131 trillion that we're owed. I think the only possible solution is no taxes for any descendant of slaves for the next 400 years. Now the Black community, which I hate using that term Black, and I hate using the term African, and I'll explain that in a second, but our community will now become an opportunity zone that every community can now invest in and reap the benefits. And we have a precedent for it because every single city or state in our union has some kind of film credit or tax exemption or tax rebate, 20, 30, 40%, because they know they're going to get 1,000% return based on the amount of innovation that comes in. So if you allow the descendants of slaves community to become an opportunity zone, then everyone will grow and benefit. We get rid of the karmic debt that we have here, but also we inspire innovation and all of those things, and it costs them nothing but 12%.
So
Okay. Can we sit there for 1 second? What I want to hear, what do you all put in the chat? What do you all think about that plan? What do you all think about, yeah, descendants of slaves if we just didn't have to pay taxes? No income tax. I think too, he didn't say this, but I don't know if he means this, but I think we should get like a tax exempt card so we wouldn't have to pay no taxes on anything that we purchase. We would not have to pay taxes on any of our taxable purchases and no taxation on our income. Tell me in the chat, what do y'all think about that? Tasha also said before, with they passing the bill, I looked at the government contracts out there. Wow. And our economy is in the trash. Education is key. We're going to talk about what new education looks like. Yes, that would be nice. Tasha says she absolutely get. Nobody else don't want to pay taxes. Y'all, the rest of y'all want to pay taxes because listen, you give me an exempt card, and to me that makes like if we're going to do the whole reparations thing, because there's also a whole other side to this, right? That we need to be honest that we were sold into slavery by folks on the motherland or by folks in the Caribbean, or and a lot of us are actually indigenous folk to this land, right? That either chose or were sold into slavery here as well. But anyway, um and that would also need to include some of the Irish because there were Irish slaves here as well during the same time period. Anyway, that I find to be a very, because honestly, I don't think that we only make up 10 to 12% or 12 to 14% of the GDP. Every time I see the numbers that we spend a ton of money. You know, just like there's a pink tax, there's a melanin tax, because everything for our hair, to properly take care of our skin, to do all kinds of other things, it costs more money. Our clothes. Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, she said she gonna need that card. I'm with the card, baby. Oh, educate yourself on what's really going on. Absolutely. Absolutely. Too many people have their head in the sand. Okay, let me keep going because as a child, we're gonna be here forever in 20 Sundays. I'm not sure how much longer we're gonna go. Oh, okay, 40 minutes. All right.
Oh, in that plan, because there's a thought that is proliferating throughout our community that we're not unified. And that we don't stick together. We don't spend our money in our own communities. So we spend what $1.5 trillion annually
And
in every
else.
other community other than our own. So if we get the reparations or if we receive tax free, are we going to still, support those other groups as opposed to ourselves? And if that's the case, who is the person? Because I mentioned this the other night. Like, we don't have a voice like yours. We don't have a voice like Malcolm X now that people will follow. So how do we rally that community together? I'm saying that in the place of Black or African. I'm saying that community.
Well, I'll backtrack so that they understand why I don't want to use Black or African. You know, Black, according to the dictionary, means dark and ugly and death and all of those things. And if we keep in line with Dr. Emoto's work, a revolutionary scientist that realized that water is alive. It has memory, and the crystallization, if you say love to it and then you freeze it, it has these beautiful crystals. But if you say hate and put all that on it, it has these malformed crystallizations. So water is affected by what we say, and where so much of our body is made up of water. So every time we say something, it can affect it, whether it's negative or positive. Well, the term African, that wasn't the original name of the continent. That Africa the A in Africa in Latin means sunny. The Frika is Greek. It means horror.
Oh, wow.
Sunny horror. Sunny horror. Sunny horror. Sunny horror. Sunny horror. Sunny horror. The real name of the continent, as spoken by 2,000 tribes and lived there, is Alkebulan.
Okay.
And it meant the birthplace of life. So, as an Alkebulan American, that Alkebulan community once they recognize, once we come together, because that's all it takes. We all sign a petition using the same Instagram, X, whatever, Twitter, whatever you need to do. We do a petition, and we'll see how many Black people are, how many alkebulan people are actually here.
Okay. Now, for people that are watching that may not be as astute as you are in terms of researching, how can they fact check?
YouTube.
Okay.
YouTube, the original name of Africa.
Okay.
That's all you got to do.
Okay.
It's right
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
It is right.
We want them to be able to, be self-sufficient in their learning process and in the process of hearing information that's new, because we know this cognitive dissonance keeps people from hearing truth or even hearing something that's coming from a place that they've never heard before. So even with the mathematics, 1 times 1 is not 1, it's 2.
Yeah, and see what I had to do, what they didn't know when I first came out and talked about the number system, they didn't know that I had already discovered that in the calculator. They didn't know that I'd already had discovered 4 supersymmetrical systems based off of 1 times 1 equaling 2. When 1 times 1 equaling 1 does not, that their entire system is based off of that. So they didn't know that I'd already patented it and it had already been proven out. So that's what you have to do first. You got to make sure you take care of your foundation, and then you build up off of it. So I took care of that, but we will come together just by talking about this. If everyone is talking about this and demanding it, they've given it to that. Germany is still paying reparations to those that were in the Holocaust.
Well, the governor, I think it's the governor of New York, I saw where they have released 183 million, I believe, to Holocaust survivors in New York.
Fascinating.
Right. And it's interesting that they have not yet still even wanted to have the conversation surrounding reparations, but it gives me pause because I'm always wondering, why don't you even want to have the conversation? And I know it's a subject that most people don't want to talk about. Most people don't want to hear. Most times it's, oh, just get over it. Get over it already. And I think that's very insulting.
It's extremely.
That it's dismissive to think that we're not owed not just conversation, but reparations itself.
The IRS calls it a frivolous argument. A frivolous argument to demand that which was given to the Native Americans, to demand that which was given to the Japanese Americans that was in the internment camp, to demand that which was given to every other group of people that's been harmed. It's a frivolous argument because they know they didn't have the money for doing it. There's some governors that say, oh, let's give them all $1 million apiece. No, give me $131 trillion. And if you can't do that, no taxes for the next 400, make it 500-600 years, because we got to add on the penalties that would have come with all of that.
I have another proposal.
Go ahead.
So in the Bible, there's a verse, I think it's in Proverbs, where it says, when a thief has been found, that they are to not only return what has been taken, but also 7 times more. So it's owed, and I mean, I'm not a math magician like you are, so somebody do the math of what is actually owed from what has been.
And he's gonna figure it out in his head.
And even us, still being here. So again,
now that they don't have the money to do it. The money has never been printed and never will be printed enough in order to cover that. That's why I'm like, okay, well, let's have a win-win. You lose 12% of your GDP to the IRS. You gain 1,000-fold, 1,000% of innovation as a result, and you have the karmic debt lifted. And I think every single country that has participated in that, it would bring such an ease to the world. It's a simple and reasonable thing. Now, if they're not willing to respond to a petition, then we file a class action lawsuit. And all it takes is 2 of us to file a class action lawsuit against the United States government for crimes against humanity and demand that back. But if everyone comes together and do that.
And by everyone, that's inclusive of not just, what is it, Nebula?
Alkebulan.
Not just alkebulan people. But
yes, but if all of us come together and demand it, like the Native Americans demanded it, and it was given to them, and they suffered more than we did. They lost their entire country. They lost everything.
Yeah, my grandmother was Cherokee, so.
So those are big components. And yeah, if I'm the only one out there saying it, yeah, you can come and try and hurt me. But if everyone is participating in this, because everyone will stand to benefit. I think when young men and women see one man stand up and they see another woman and man come and grab 2 of them, then there's an opportunity for growth because they know, hey, yeah, you may be able to hurt one of us, but you can't hurt all of us. And you can't hurt me until the creator says that my work is done. And when my work is done, then I'm open to whatever happened. It could be a microbial that takes me out, but nothing is going to harm me as long as I'm doing the work of the creator and moving our people together just towards truth. That's all I want. It's absolute truth
Right.
and transparency.
Okay, guys, we're going to unpack a little bit more of that, and then we are going to pause it there. The next time we do this in a couple of days, it'll be part 3. We're going to finish it off. We're going to stick it out to the end. But there's a lot that was just said there. What I loved how he tied together the he tied together the clearing of the karma that this country and other countries that participated in the slave trade have basically created, right, within the country itself as an entity. Because the country is its own entity, right? And so there is a great karmic debt that has been created due to the historical crimes against humanity that's been raised against not only us, but indigenous. Well, most of us are indigenous, but that's a whole thing. We'll talk about that another time. Shout out Dan Calloway. Is that his last name? Anyway, the karmic debt, like basically, this is the thing. Like you get what goes around comes around. You reap what you sow. So for any group of people to think that because their ancestors did something, that they may or may not be paying the price for it now, right? The sins of the fathers is set upon the sons. So the problem then we come into when we don't recognize that, when we want to just like poo-poo it and say, well, I bear no responsibility for what my ancestors did. And do you know that your own ancestors sold? Okay, yep, they did sell us. There's a good chunk of us they sold right into slavery because folks were not, Caucasian folks was not going down into the jungles of Africa to go catch people. What was Woman King? Did you all see the movie Woman King a year or two ago with Viola? If you have not, go find it, go watch it. People didn't like that movie. Why? Because it showed the truth. How we were sold, how our brothers and sisters sold us into slavery with no remorse. So there's a karmic debt hearing him say this, it makes me feel like there's a karmic debt on that land that they're not even willing to like discuss at the moment. So there's a reason why that land's been the way that it is. Now it's not as bad as they want to tell us, but it is. It is not great, right? So until this karmic debt is repaid, we all cannot live as one because there's always this thing that's here, this energy that's going to exist and permeate within this country until we balance the books. The only way to balance the books at the moment, to be honest with you, and that sounds horrible, but the only way to balance the books is by money. Money is we have chosen to use money as an energy in order to balance the scales. You probably could have had it balanced had you honestly given us the 40 acres and a mule, but then you came in and took that. You probably could have had it balanced had you not gone and paid people. You ever heard of what a red cent or a 5 cent Indian or something like that? You ever heard that term? Well, that term was used because folks it was worth a lot more money then, but money was worth something different. But they were paid people of European descent that had no ties indigenously to this land, paid off those who were to be able to go and pretend that they were of that tribe and wrote their names on the Dawes rolls. And then they ended up having rights and privileges over to live on the reservations. So or they didn't even need to live on the reservation, but there's a lot of people that I'm like, mm-mm, that their names are on Dawes rolls. And so then you can still get other benefits even if you're not living on the reservation. So there's a lot of dirt that was done, and so there's karma that's got to get cleared out. The fact that he tied it to the karma, the karmic energy or the karmic debt of this nation and others, I thought was absolutely brilliant. And it really does bring forward a lot of truth and transparency. Okay, we probably have, I said I was only going to be on here for an hour, gang. And the reason for that is because um, in about another hour and a half to 2 hours, about 7:30ish, I think, Eastern time, I'm gonna come back live. We're gonna have a little bit of our messy Monday tonight. Only I'm not picking on celebrities only. We'll be picking on y'all. So we're gonna do is it me or is it tea tonight for a little while. We're gonna have some fun with it. So we're gonna be have a little bit of a messy Monday. We'll pull some cards and things of that nature. So that's going to be fun tonight. I don't know if I want to get how messy I want to get, but we're going to be here. So tonight I will be doing, you all know I don't do love readings, but I'll do it tonight, child. But listen, if you end up getting drugged for utter filth, as they say, I don't want to hear it. Whatever come out in these cards, baby, that's on you. That ain't on me. Okay, ain't got nothing to do with it. Okay, all right. As long as we understand. Anyway, so I'm gonna get on out here. This was really interesting. And the last part, he talks a little bit about the empire thing and not getting paid. But we do get back into some of the metaphysics, get back into some of like different religious beliefs and things like that, and just kind of have a nice little wrap up. So I'm gonna like figure out exactly which parts we're gonna go over the next time. All right, guys, I'm going to see everybody a little bit later on. So probably about, like I said, 7:30. Oh, before I forget, go in the description box. If you're not already a member, sign up to be a member. It's not that expensive, like $1.99 a month. If you're not already a member, become a member, please. And if you want to partake in my 60-day manifestation challenge, be prepared to give something up. Be prepared to give something up. Okay? Because we want to kind of something that you're really attached to, something that you just can't seem to do without, right? Because we need to make some room for some new vibrations. Okay, we need to make room for new vibrations and uplifting. And so I want to do this 60-day challenge with you. I just was texting Armand of Armand Wiggins, the Armand Wiggins Show, and Fox Soul TGIF. And I was like, hey, I'm going to do my own. Is that okay? And he's like, yeah, it's okay. I don't like anybody thinking I'm moving weird. So we're going to do that all together and really watch. You can't sign up again to be a member? Hold on. Hang on one second, darling. I'm going to copy and paste it in the chat. Okay, gang? And Rumble, this is over on YouTube. So, because I don't have anything set up. I put it back in the chat. I don't have my Rumble subscription set up yet over here. I probably should do that, hey? But right now it's on YouTube. Anywho's Neimer. So if you want to, like, literally, I guess I can tell you the last time I did this, when I did this with Armand, we did it at the beginning of the year, so from January to March. And I literally was manifesting some pretty rapid growth in my business, and some growth, a different type of growth, right? Like there was just some things I wanted. That's how Soulfire Syndicate came, the mastermind came to being. There's a huge restructure, but I didn't know how I was going to restructure everything. And there's a lot that had happened that's happened during the last year. We're coming up on a year when there were some really massive changes and upheavals. And a lot that I've not talked about. I've talked about semi-publicly, even within my community, my Lightwork Academy community, but I've not really dove into the depths, shall we say, and not told my story or my side of things, right? So anyway, I just realized, I mean, probably earlier this year that I was still grieving it, and it was still hurt. It still was within me. It still hurt. There was still pain because of a lot of things that had been misrepresented to some people that I care deeply about. Anyway, so I needed a restructure, right? And so I did, and I needed clarity. And those 2 months brought, not only did it bring a restructure, but when I tell you the opportunities, thanks, Tasha. Yay, welcome. Welcome, Tasha. The clarity, the opportunities that it brought, um, from being on podcasts that, like a major iHeart, well, not just iHeartRadio, but a podcast that is on Charlemagne the God's podcast network, to another over the top television show that has millions of viewers, to like just different opportunities just were granted and came to me, and it was a wonderful 2 months. And that's when I found my new coach. He's actually a guru, and it's wonderful. Welcome, Sela. Yay, yay, I'm so happy. So there was great things happened, right? And so I want to do it again, because although I'm not drinking coffee again, I am back to watching a lot of true crime stuff. I gotta stop, guys. So I'm hoping you guys can that doing this with you guys will help me stop. I am still here, Shakima, and so are you. Um, but anyway, so I want to share this journey with you guys, this 60-day journey with you guys. And so we're gonna choose like a book or some other different things to follow as we're going through our manifestation process. And this will give me inspiration to do some more like specific meditations and things like that. So I'm really excited about it. So we're going to start later on this week, and then we'll pick a night or time each week that we'll be getting together as the members. And don't feel like if you're seeing this like later and it's like next week you're watching this on a replay, come and join. It doesn't matter. You start when you want to start, right? You start when you can. And but we're just going to uplift everybody, okay? All right, gang. I'm going to get out of here so I can go warm me up some of that food I had last night, and come on back in about an hour, hour and a half. Okay? Yeah, just under 2 hours. Okay. Peace, love, blessings, and joy be unto you today, tomorrow, and for all eternity. I love you guys so much. Namaste. Bye, gang. Oh my gosh, I can't find my outro. How embarrassing.